Well, hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, March the 29th, and I'm joined by my co-host, my cohort in crime, my PIC, my sidekick, my brother from another mother, Brasco in the radio. What's going on, brother?
The Will Smith to my Chris Rock.
Well, I don't think so.
No.
I got a whole lot of, feelings wrapped up in that. I don't even know quite
Oh,
what
I can tell you where to begin. It's pretty simple. Look, and we can tie it into really what he's been doing because besides the fact he won the Oscar for King Richard, which no one's going to remember.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him for that. He deserved it for all the years he did. I thought he should have won for Concussion. I'm just saying I love that movie.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. This is a guy that's also found his own journey. Listen, we can talk about the salaciousness of him and his wife and all the dirty laundry let out, their kids. We can talk about all that. But this guy, not too long ago, he went to Peru and he did discover psychedelics. This is a guy that never was anywhere into drugs. The other thing that never gets talked about, that Chris Rock and Jada Pinkett Smith, they looked like they were kind of best buds because they worked on a bunch of projects together. They animated together on Madagascar.
Yeah.
She appeared on the Chris Rock show. He appeared on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like there's a whole triangle right there where they all knew each other. And he made jokes. 2016, he said a joke because Will and Jada did not go to the Oscars because there was not enough black representation. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to make a joke about it. And, he said a joke where he said, okay, boycotting the event. Jada boycotting, I'm not going to do the impression. Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited. And that's funny.
That is funny.
Oh, also he made a joke at Will Smith saying, it's not fair that Will was this good in Concussion and didn't get nominated. You're right. It's also not fair that Will Smith was paid $20 million for Wild Wild West. Hey, he roasts them 5 years ago, 6 years ago. What's changed now? It's the environment. It's the way that everybody looks at things now. We have gotten soft.
Yeah, and look, everything is so PC. And I kind of understand the three different buckets, right? Mm-hmm. One bucket, not knowing what to say. One bucket saying he should have done it, and then one bucket saying he shouldn't have done it. I get that there's three schools of thought on it. Either way, I kind of feel like no matter what, he is a role model. So coming out and apologizing was something that he should have done. And so I'm glad he did that. Now, let's talk about, the genesis of, some of those issues. He's been experiencing issues out in the public limelight for quite some time. Like you said, he took a trip to Peru and he took 12, not one or two. He took 12 ayahuasca journeys, and they didn't really deep dive on what he articulated in the book about the outcome. Nonetheless, boy seems to have a lot of pent-up anger.
Well, the thing is, I can understand that. Listen, we can appreciate the pressure that he's put on himself for the career he has had for 3 decades plus, from music to movies to now books, and through various other entrepreneurial ventures, and also to lead his kids into the career that he paved the way for. All of that takes a toll. Plus, the issues with his marriage. Like, to make a Hollywood marriage last that long, you're going to have a lot of major bumps. And that right there, by having ayahuasca, those 12 trips, said it was the greatest parallel he ever had. So he needed to go that route to take the pressure of all that was happening to him in his 50s now, after taking all this pent up. But it's still not enough because he reacted. I'm going to say his wife, I feel like she's got narcissistic tendencies, has a real control, a stranglehold over him. And he really came off feminine, reacting like he did. Not so much the slap. You know what? If it was just a slap and walk back, I don't think anybody else would have really thought anything. But it's the yelling, that feminine, argument type of feel that he had to convey out. That means he needs another trip of ayahuasca. I mean, something there. Like there's, it's he might have felt good, and he was going to go on a book tour. He is on a book tour, talking about his memoir Will, which describes that, and High Times profiled it. And I'm saying to myself, okay, then why is this guy who is publicly a celebrity that has mentioned his journey there? Then what happens here? Like, why did that happen? Why did he react like he did?
Well, that's a great question. I think, look, they're celebrities, they're in the limelight, and I think it was said, they have to deal with people constantly, cracking jokes about them, and in some cases, I would think it's like salt in a wound after a while. So, God bless them. Look, I think they turned a corner, and hopefully, people don't have to waste a bunch of hot air on it.
Oh, exactly. So let's get into some news. So the Senate and the House, they're stirring up, saying, "Oh, we're going to do some work to help cannabis out." Okay. Well, there's a couple of things that did. The one thing that did pass to the U.S. Senate, and that's a cannabis research bill. So it's would authorize the U.S. FDA to study cannabis products, and it would head to the U.S. House of Representatives for consideration. And it's bipartisan. The idea is to better understand the marijuana plant and its potential benefits and side effects. So research being allowed. It's a major step that will go a long way. I mean, just to go ahead and keep proving for ourselves. But now I also wonder what does that mean about what they could use for research? What can they use for experimentation? Where can they go ahead and procure it? And who's going to get allowed to go and do that? Is it going to be public funded? Is it have to be private? Will the colleges and universities get the chance to do something with this? That's what I want to find out.
Well, look, I think the fact that they're looking at having the FDA, run this is, I think both, okay, maybe a step in the right direction, and then maybe not, right? Because if you look at what happened with the OxyContin, and how people and big pharma push people in the FDA their direction by offering them jobs and incentives after they leave the FDA to help influence the FDA's rulings in their direction. Again, this could either be a great thing, or it could open the door to more nefarious stuff in the future. So I think it's yet to be seen. But there's a lot going on in Congress this week with cannabis, so I'm excited to see what happens there.
The other thing that was talked about, but I forget who it was. Leonard Tannenbaum, I think it was just a guest on Green Peak, and remember, and I forget, financial expert mentioning about, what, every time you hear about something that's going to be passed in the House, if it doesn't pass the Senate, it doesn't matter. And it was absolutely true. Right now, what we're going again, the Hill is reporting that the House is poised to pass legalization. All right. So, and it's just one of several pieces of legislation underlying the shift in Congress's attitude that they want to help, take care of what past drug laws have done disproportionately to hit minority communities. And that's their modus operandi for doing this now. They want to say, okay, the war on drugs that has failed, and they need to go ahead and accept the fact that everything is. So the House has already voted twice in the last year to bolster U.S. competitiveness, enable illegally operating cannabis businesses to use banking services and credit cards instead of cash only. And Thursday, we talked about the medical research. So it isn't limited to marijuana legalization. There was also a bipartisan bill passed by the House last fall to eliminate federal disparity in prison sentences for crack and powder cocaine offenses. And it's one-sided support. Then there was also a bill, the Equal Act, eliminating a quantifiably unjust application of the law. And that has the support of law enforcement organizations, major city police chiefs, among other things. So they got things in the hopper. But it's still going to be House. If it goes to Senate, it goes by the wayside. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna have to keep our fingers crossed on this, right? This vote's coming on Thursday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, currently they say that the numbers are close on it, but again, like all the votes, like you said, all the votes this year have gone. We get through the House, but we still need Senate support. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed this time.
Yep. Yep. So let's move along into the spotlight this week. March Madness.
March Madness.
I haven't watched college basketball in a long time, and I used to be really big about it. But the problem is that the student athletes, first of all, they're not getting the money that they can unless now they have the next in line program, so they can start making money off endorsements and things like that. There's that part. Then there's a part about they want to go and go to the NBA right away. So the thought of staying around for 2 to 4 years in college when they know the NBA is already calling for them to come on up, and it doesn't matter. They see what Kobe Bryant and LeBron James did to lead the way forward to basketball to a professional career. Then college hasn't been there, but maybe they did something here to go and help out. There's a bunch of stories that come out about how the NCAA has now relaxed marijuana rules for marijuana for college athletes across the board. This just happened today. So I'm looking through, and let's go and bring up what they're saying now. The NCAA is now
they've relaxed
Oh,
the
go ahead.
testing limits,
Correct.
George. This is the deal. So they were testing at 35 nanograms, and now they've raised that to 150, right? And so essentially, that makes that testing threshold that much greater, right? So obviously, as you can see, like they're realizing and recognizing based on the press release that they put out that they need to relax their rules around cannabis use. Rules around state rules around cannabis use has been being relaxed all over the country. And so they're recognizing ultimately that, these professional athletic students are having to use this for chronic pain and what have you. And so, and they know that this is on the rise. And so I know the conversation is around, okay, we know that teen use is going to happen, but if we can potentially relax this a little bit so they're not triggering the tests, and maybe then they don't get flagged on their way into a recruiting situation and blow their whole career. And so personally I think that's a good move on behalf of the NCAA.
So what's the bigger difference now? I mean, I'm just trying to wrap around that number, 150 nanograms per milliliter. So, I mean, how high do you have to be for you to be
But
tagged?
before you trigger it,
Yeah,
I have no idea. I would think though that I mean that's exponentially greater. I don't know if that's like you smoke a doobie the night before the test,
right.
and I couldn't tell you. But I know that for them to make a public statement like that and to put that press release out worded the way they did, something, in my opinion, something happened for them to have a serious conversation and revisit the whole NCAA's rules around testing and consumption, right? They know it's being done. So let's raise let's raise that threshold.
Now, you know what? Because of the penalties are severe. Like, I mean, Marijuana Moment actually did a great job about a month ago
Yeah.
when they were talking about this. So the bylaws for Division 1, 2, and 3, student athletes, if they get a positive test, immediately renders the player ineligible for 50% of the regular season. Half their games they can't play. Second positive test.
Half the games, yeah, that's crazy.
Second test, the whole season. You lose a year of your career. That's 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 it's life changing. You're destroying a career for
Yeah.
this, and so like it only makes sense that you're going ahead and doing something where the testing is now at the level of the anti-doping agency. So what the Olympians do, what professional athletes have, now they get that same chance. If they do consume a bit, they're not going to get totally penalized, and they're not going to get subjected to these draconian penalties of losing half of your season of your eligibility or all of it a year.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I see that, and it's part of the thing where we need to normalize some of this stuff. I mean, there's the behavior of saying that there's something wrong with this. We see that everybody functions well. Now, if you had something where here's a question. I mean, if you think you were going to do performance of anything, how much, if you were a coach or if you're a sports program, how much is too much to expect your talent to be under the influence for them not to be able to perform well? Like, what do you think would be like a good, compromise?
Well, I see that question is founded though in the myth that it hampers or impairs your ability to play, right? We hear professional athletes say all the time that it helps them, right? It's not necessarily categorized as performance enhancing because it's not. But what it does do is it provides incredible focus for an athlete, right? And that allows them to shut out the noise and to drive through what they're trying to do, right? Ride a faster mile, run a faster mile, lift more weight, whatever the hell it is. That idea is more focus, right? Not performance enhancing.
So the idea is, I mean, unlike whether there are things that are being considered illegal substances, anabolic steroids or things like that. My thing is just that's the question they have to ask: is that if there is anything. And the one thing I want to tie into is the fact that Rolling Stone put up a story about how applying cannabis research to college basketball. Because what you can really do is with these student athletes, you can do research. You can go ahead and examine. You can do studies to see how they are placed with placebos or placed with anything in particular, whatever kind of cannabis they use, and find out how much they consume, have them play, and see and really and just examine and diagnose how they perform, how much focus they do get, and what it does to their play. Like it would be nice to see that, and then also use that information to go across the entire sports spectrum.
Right. Well, I mean, look, at some point in time, somebody's going to need to do this. I think we're early still for that. There's lots of money at stake with big leagues and with the schools. Of course, there's federal funding involved. There's a lot at stake. So I think moving through cannabis, its use, and what players' limits are with respect to them, what the penalties are. I think all that's going to continue to evolve. But I do applaud the NCAA for looking to relax their guidelines. I think it's still not enough. They need to really consider a person's right to alternative medicine. And that's really what cannabis is. So again, until the leagues, all of them, figure out what the plant really is, they're going to continue to have these weird little power struggles, for pro athletes and college athletes to get their footing with respect to use.
So as we know, the research being opened up now, the government oversight, and you're seeing there's a lot of publications out there by universities that have done a lot of work on the research just of this. As they're writing this story in Rolling Stone, they mentioned that Columbia University has done 127 cannabis publications. Yale, Virginia Commonwealth University, University of Mississippi, Harvard, University of Maryland, they've all done lots of research on all this, and not just cannabinoids, but also psilocybin. They've done the research out there, and it's a lot, but it's just not seen a light of day.
George, I got to tell you, I think at some point here we're going to see that tide shift, and when it does, I think you're going to see a resounding sigh of relief from everybody. The media is sick of covering this stuff because they know what's going on. Players, they're tired of being forced to use stuff that, recreationally, it's okay for them to go get bombed and drunk off their butts and potentially wrap a car around a tree, as opposed to chilling out with, a joint, a vape card. Again, until things continue on the path that they are, we're moving in the right direction, right? It's just still going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah. And to think that some of these studies have been going on for the last decade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research being done, and it comes up all the time. And they make the point in the Rolling Stone article that this is important because university partnerships are key for cannabis companies to establish legitimacy in the field, develop training programs, contribute to public health, and other research, or generate intellectual property. So there's so many advantages of what we're doing right here. Of what we already know. What we already know.
Okay, George, we're running out of time here. I want to give an update to this past week's trip across Florida over to the East Coast. My self-wellness. This was week number 3. Brandy and I drove over to Bonita Springs to the clinic for our 3rd, mind you, ketamine therapy treatment.
Right.
And I did not have the same reaction that I did on number 2. If you guys remember, on number 2, I was puking. It was throughout the entire experience. It was a thing. And so I could tell you that this time around, it was a case of 100% I fell into a bit of bliss. It was so nice. It was comfortable. It was warm. And it was the kind of experience that I think when you think about kind of disconnecting from yourself and kind of falling quietly into an abyss, I did that, but it was not as like I've the previous 2. There was this hardcore question about reality itself, right? Like, is any of this real? Am where I'm at right now real? Is this reality? Is what the construct that I'm in, when I'm not on ketamine, is that real? Like, what's real? I didn't struggle with reality this past journey. It was quite the contrary. It was very soft. It was very gentle. And as always, the staff was amazing. Reintegration was very, very interesting, though. I came home that night and I still felt like I was kind of heavy in it. And that carrying that psychedelic feeling with you when technically it had run its course. My dosage went up. I was at, I believe it was 140, 145, something like that. And I got to tell you, when I got back here to the house, I felt that kind of that heavy psychedelic feeling that kind of settled back over me again. And I think in that moment, Brandy saw that this was very heavy on me, and she asked me about it. I told her this is what I was feeling, and she said, "Hey, why don't you see if you can connect with like your mom or dad, who are dead for those watching. And I gave that a moment to still my head and started to think about that. And that was that was too much. And that was like at 8:45, 9 o'clock, I was in the bed and I had to pass out. It was a very, very heavy experience. The next morning, Saturday morning, I woke up, and George, I got to tell you, I'm sitting out back. It is beautiful outside, and I noticed this unbelievable sense of bliss, happiness, to the extent, so much so that I needed to point it out to myself, right? Take a moment and pause and recognize, I'm not an unhappy person, but I'm just suddenly feeling abnormally happy. And so that was an unexpected thing. Whether that was from the ketamine therapy or not, I don't know. That was number 3. We have 3 more to go. We moved up our this week's journey. We're going to go on Thursday, because on Saturday we have to be at the West Palm Beach Cannabis Expo. Can Expo's in town, and I will be your MC for that event. So if you're here in South Florida, make sure you check out Can Expo. Get your tickets, come down and come hang out and see us for that. So yes, George, this Thursday we'll go and we will have round number 4 at My Self Wellness of that ketamine journey. And so far, guys, I got to tell you, it truly is. It's an amazing experience. If you've never done it, it's a thing.
Wow.
It's a thing. Brasco, before we get out of here, do you have a few updates, programming updates?
Yeah, I want to give you a few things that came up. There was really interesting stories. I talked to the group at Doctors Hemp Solutions. I thought it was interesting. They put out a product called Hemp Flavin, and they talked about a study that they did where they showed the effect on acute and chronic pain patients with 0 side effects. I think they had 40 some odd patients that were of different ages. I think it was between like 20 to 90 years old. Like they had one person that was needing what was it? Oh, like a rotator cuff surgery, and had a pain grade of like between 1 and 10, 10 the worst being a 9, and absolutely seeing relief, and showing that every person that took it was feeling some kind of relief for chronic pain. That was pretty interesting to me. The NCIA actually put a great thing where they're talking about robbery, theft, and other crime risks. So all the issues when it comes to, risk management, theft, and robberies in cannabis dispensaries. They talked to Doug Esposito and Kevin Mullins from their Risk Management and Insurance Committee to discuss how the crimes are affecting the industry, best practices to mitigate risks. And finally, I talked to Ryan Hunter. He runs the Crypto Cannabis Club. We talked about everything cannabis, crypto, and the metaverse. And I asked so many questions of him about what was going on and how he's creating an NFT and metaverse community and the first ever NFT powered cannabis brand.
Can I tell you, NFTs are taking off, man. I've got to get my head wrapped around this.
Well, it's a lot, man. I mean, there's it's the money that you're going to put into it and how you're going to do. And we're hearing people doing it. I mean, just today I talked to someone that runs the Emerald Road, and they're doing it's Mendocino County.
Yeah.
So to help support that community for craft cannabis against the big multi-state operators, they're launching a campaign in June to have NFTs and tokens available to help not only, share to go ahead and create value of it between them, but also go ahead and build, take the tokens, be used as commerce. So cash it in through blockchain, give back out with currency, all of that.
Interesting. Well, I got to tell you, guys, we've run out of time.
Yeah.
George, great show. Again, folks, we're going to keep up our journey and reporting that here with My Self Wellness, Brandy and I. We'll have another report for you next week. Of course, you'll have another episode right here of Cannabis Radio Live next Tuesday. Make sure you like, share, and follow us. Of course, If you're over on YouTube, make sure you smash that bell notification thing in the corner where you see the little bell. That way, when we go live, you'll get notified every time. You won't miss any of our new content. But that's going to do it for us. George, thanks for coming on today. Folks, we'll see you next week right here, Cannabis Radio Live.